As we're following up with the Capitol Annex project, that's the building there you see behind the dome there. Now, Governor Gavin Newsom said yesterday that he would like to know more about the project, where it's at and how much it cost and when it's going to be done. That is the at least $1 billion office building for lawmakers and the governor that is still under construction.
Project leaders in the state legislature have been keeping taxpayers in the dark about how their money is being spent, how much money is being spent on this. KCRA 3's political director Ashley Zavala is shining some new light on 3 people who've been making some of these decisions behind closed doors.
That's right. This 3-member executive committee, which includes someone who closely works with Governor Gavin Newsom, they're allowed to meet privately and make decisions behind closed doors. All 3 of them have also signed non-disclosure agreements, legally promising to keep broad details about this taxpayer-funded project a secret.
I've talked with legislative leaders. I'm going to add a topic, the next conversation around the annex.
Governor Gavin Newsom this week promising to push for transparency after I pressed him about the Capitol Annex project. It has been years since state lawmakers have provided an estimated cost of the new office building that's now under construction in downtown Sacramento. They have not been forthcoming about how they're spending taxpayer dollars.
Is that appropriate, though? I mean, truly, for the public to not know how much that building costs?
That's what I said. You should get that information. I agree, it's inappropriate. By the way, I didn't know they were not talking to you. I apologize that members of the legislature are not talking to you. They're on recess. I'll check in with them. Let me know. I'm happy to help you try to get access to members of the California legislature with respect, not my branch of government, but I'm happy because as a taxpayer, I'd like to know as well.
California's legislature is leading the project, but Governor Newsom's office has been more involved in it than he let on. Documents from 2018 show when the project was established, they also created a 3-member executive committee that's expected to meet regularly and make final decisions on the project. On it, Assemblymember Blanca Pacheco, State Senator John Laird, and the Director of Operations for Governor Gavin Newsom, Miroslava De La O. Documents provided through a Legislative Open Records Act request show De La O recently signed a non-disclosure agreement like Pacheco and Laird. As we reported last year, more than 2,000 people have signed the confidentiality agreement to legally keep broad information about the project a secret.
Well, I, as a taxpayer, would also like to know.
Lurie Stetson was a member of the Public Accountability for Our Capital Political Action Committee. She noted what De La O talks about with lawmakers is confidential.
Those 3 people made key decisions on the Capitol. More importantly, they made those decisions privately and did not have to disclose those to the public.
Does the governor truly not know the estimated cost of the Capitol Annex or how taxpayer dollars are being spent? It's not clear.
I don't know if the governor would or not. His staff might. Whether the staff informed him of that, we don't know. We've tried to get in touch with the governor over the last 5 years also and never heard back from him.
I also reached out to the governor's office for comment on all of this. In a statement, his spokesperson, Tara Gallego, said, in part, "We are not privy to detailed financial information beyond what is addressed by the committee. The NDA does not prevent the governor's staff from briefing him on actions taken by the committee and limited information received in this function," end quote. We should note, we don't know when that committee last met. And also, I mean, the fact that we just aren't able to know anything about this committee because everything they do is confidential. We're in this moment where the use of taxpayer dollars and knowing about it is important because the state has been facing significant budget shortfalls. They've been strapped on cash. So that's why we're asking.
So what happened when you did ask when they last met? What was the answer to that?
Right. The Joint Rules Committee, which I have been talking to today, they didn't give me a response to that. But they did say earlier today in a statement, a spokesperson said the executive committee was designed to ensure collaboration and transparency despite our claims of secrecy. I mean, we've shown all the evidence that there are documents and public information that has been withheld. They are not forthcoming. All of the information we're getting about this project is through leaks.
If it wasn't an issue of secrecy, we would know how much is being spent and on what. They're very simple questions. I mean, it's not tricky.
Exactly.
Yeah, straightforward questions.
We are.
Still looking for transparency. All right, Ashley, thanks.